Now the queen is speaking to Narad. She continues her talk because she is asked, how could this happen? What kind of doom could be over this Shalwa boy? She calls Satyavan the Shalwa boy.
Hmm.
It's where he lives is Shalwa,
Yeah.
Shalwa forest. And she's thinking maybe he came from an enemy as an enemy from Savitri's past.
Yes.
And he doesn't not aware of it perhaps, but here love and hate are tangled,
Hmm.
and our days are even links of a disastrous chain. She's become a little bit negative now, of course, because hearing word about her daughter.
Hmm.
She says old cruelties come back unrecognized. And then she says, for nothing have we learned, but still repeat our stark misuse of self and other souls. There are dire alchemies of the human heart, and fallen from his ethereal element, love darkens to the spirit of nether gods. The dreadful angel, angry with his joys, woundingly sweet, he cannot yet forego, is pitiless to the soul his gaze disarmed. He visits with his own pangs his quivering prey, forcing us to cling enamored to his grip, as if in love with our own agony. Do you want me to continue or do you want to now read?
No, I think I'll maybe read.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
For nothing have we learned, but still repeat our stark misuse of self and others' souls. There are dire alchemies of the human heart, and fallen from his ethereal element, love darkens to the spirit of God. The dreadful angel, angry with his joys, woundingly sweet, he cannot yet forego, is pitiless to the soul, his gaze disarmed. He visits his own pangs, his quivering prey, forcing us to cling enamored to his grip, as if in love with our own agony.
All right, it's a difficult passage, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's so much better. Like, I mean, I could read it so much better than when I
Stand
read it on my own. That's why I requested you to like read it
very
because it was like I couldn't even make sense of the sentence, but now
okay.
at least it was much better.
So we begin. Um,
For nothing have we learned, but still repeat our stark misuse of self and others' souls.
yes, and this is one of the aspects of love when it changes between human beings.
Hmm.
Uh, we don't really learn anything until we can truly love, and that is a love without wanting any love in return.
Hmm.
And so we haven't learned anything, she says, but we still repeat our misuse of ourself and other souls. There are dire alchemies of the human heart. Now, here the alchemy is it's a magical power or a miraculous power.
Hmm.
The alchemy here isn't changing metal into gold, but he's speaking of alchemies of the human heart,
Hmm.
which are which are magical powers or miraculous powers. But they are fallen from their highest element.
Hmm.
Then, when that happens, love darkens to the spirit of the lower gods. This is when love takes on these elements of the misuse of others. We see this happening so much in life with people wanting some experience, like a submissive woman who wants to be beaten,
Mm.
or a man who wants to be
Mm.
misused by a woman. So love darkens here to the spirit of the nether gods. The dreadful angel, this is love in the darker aspect. The dreadful angel, angry with his joys, woundingly sweet, he cannot yet forego, so he still has these joys of love, but it's darkened, huh? It's
Mm.
other gods, it's the dreadful angel. And it's pitiless to the soul, his gaze disarmed. So, very occasionally, we will see someone, let's say a man, looking at him,
Mhm.
and his gaze is so powerful that she's caught by him.
Mm.
She's absolutely enraptured by his
Mm.
look,
Mm.
huh? and and that gaze disarms this person's soul. And this kind of love is pitiless to that soul. He even visits with his own pangs his quivering prey. Well, that's a powerful statement,
Mm.
forcing forcing us to cling
Mm.
enamored to his grip, as if in love with our own agony.
Yeah.
And there are people who have had that power over others, unfortunately, in life, and caused others to do terrible things for them,
Mm.
as if in love with our own agony.
Mm.
Okay, this is one poignant misery in the world, and grief has other lassos for our life. Our sympathies become our torturers. Strength have I to my own punishment to bear, knowing it just. But on this earth, perplexed, smitten in the sorrow of scourged and helpless things, often it faints to meet other suffering eyes. I've got a new book thing here, so because Alina told me I was leaning over the book too much, so I had to
Uh-huh.
have a stand, and I had just happened to have had one, so I have to see the words in different ways. It's interesting.
Okay.
So you read now. Hmm?
Yeah. This is one poignant misery in the world, and grief has other lassos for our life. Our sympathies become our torturers. Strength have I my own punishment to bear, knowing it just, but on this earth perplexed, smitten in the sorrow of scourged and helpless things, often it feigns to meet other suffering eyes.
Yes, well, there are two things here.
Yeah,
First is the word poignant. The G,
poignant
the
is
G is not
silent,
the G is silent.
poignant. Okay,
And the next one is scourged.
scourged,
Scourged.
scourged. Okay.
So she says that this being in love with our own agony and clinging enamored to the gift, to the grip of this pitiless force, this dreadful angel, This is one poignant mystery in the world. Poignant is piercingly sharp or distressing, painful even.
Hmm.
And grief has other lassos for our life.
And
One is,
what is lassos?
well, the easiest explanation I can give you is of a man on horseback
Okay.
who wants to catch another horse. And
Oh,
he has this rope that is called a lasso. And he
okay.
lassos the other horse and he pulls him in a little bit. So that's a lasso. And Sri Aurobindo uses lasso a few times in Savitri because it's a very interesting um, definition. Because a lasso is something that comes around one and pulls one in. You can
Hmm.
say that the divine has a lasso on some of us,
Okay.
that he has lassoed our soul.
Ah, that is an honor.
And Sri Aurobindo uses that lasso. He says, "Oh,
Nice.
lasso of my something," and the divine is talking to
Yeah.
Savitri. So you
It's
now
such a blessing to be lassoed by the divine.
absolutely, huh?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
not just by a love that is pitiless to the soul or woundingly sweet, or someone who darkens love to the spirit of the nether gods. See how Sri
Hmm.
Aurobindo is showing us this whole thing in the deepest perspective.
Yeah.
So now,
And also like how humans also take agony or grief, we just when that comes, we just go to the darkest space, or like, it's like we see no light and we are all thinking so negative and in doom.
it is very true. And
Yeah.
this kind of dark outlook on life has often also been justified.
Hmm.
And I can give you examples. The Christian Inquisition, when they
Yeah.
when they tortured so many people
Hmm.
because they become Christian or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not only that, but Idi Amin and his killing of so many people, or Stalin, or Hitler. It goes on and on. Mussolini, Genghis Khan. All this is cause for the grief that has other lassos for our life.
Hmm.
But then she changes it a little bit. She says our sympathies become our torturers. And I can
Hmm.
give a personal story. When I was a little boy, maybe
Hmm.
6 years old, we had a sunroom in our little house, and
Okay.
that was all glass,
Okay.
and it would keep you warm even in the winter.
Oh.
The sun would heat up the room so beautifully. My mother would sit there because there was a cemetery just a couple of doors down from us, and she would cry for every funeral that came by.
Oh.
So our sympathies become our torturers.
Torturous. Hmm.
And she says, I have strength to bear my own punishment.
Hmm.
I know that it's just.
Hmm.
On this earth, perplexed, is confused. Huh?
Hmm. Hmm.
Smitten, smitten. What is smitten?
It's like it's usually used in terms of like a love, like the person is smitten by the other person.
Yes,
But
yes.
here, I don't know, like smitten in the sorrow. Is it like the sorrow
Hit,
has and
hit by someone,
hit
smitten.
by sorrow? Yeah, yeah.
Smitten in the sorrow of scourged. Scourged is whipped and beaten
Hmm.
and helplessly. Often it
Scourged. Can you say that word again, Narad? So
scourged.
in smitten in the sorrow of scourged.
Yeah, It's an sound, scourged.
Scourged. And it means?
Well, scourged means, for me, it's always meant beaten. But I
Beaten.
will give you the lexicon also because that's important, get it exact. So
Scourged is also used in the context of scourged in the deserts, right? Like so, like no, am I misplacing a word there? Like is it another word? Am I confusing a
the
word?
the best example I can give you is really um, two things. There in Italy, there are these men Christian men who are penitents.
Hmm.
So, penitent means someone who is paying for his sins,
Hmm.
and they whip themselves. They whip
Ah.
their chests. They
Yeah.
scourge themselves with whips until their backs are
Hmm.
bleeding.
Hmm.
So it is something that tells us that it's beaten or flogged. You can
Hmm.
beat someone, you can flog them with whips, with
Hmm.
anything. That's
Hmm.
scourged. So
Okay.
so she knows that her own punishment is just and she has enough strength to bear it. But
Hmm.
in sorrow of scourged, look at it when an animal is whipped with whips.
Hmm.
That's scourging.
Yeah.
And scourged and helpless things often faints to meet other suffering eyes. So our own sorrows are not enough for us at times. We have to have sorrows for other things.
Hmm.
And that's what she's expressing.
Hmm.
That when she sees other suffering souls who have been scourged or who are helpless, maybe
Hmm.
they have no arms or legs or they have no food and they're dying of poverty.
Hmm.
All these helpless things, her consciousness faints
Hmm.
to meet these eyes
Yeah.
of suffering people. Now, we are going slower, but I think it's a wonderful idea that we are
Yeah.
doing
No,
this
I
way.
was also wondering, now I've got a little more grip, so I was wondering if I should read and then we go back to correcting.
Yes.
Okay. We are not as the gods who know not grief and look impassive on a suffering world. Calm they gaze down on the little human scene and the short-lived passion crossing mortal hearts.
Yes. We are not as the gods because the gods don't know grief. They
Huh.
have knowledge of grief. They're gods, after all.
Yeah.
And they look impassive on a suffering world because they're calm. They gaze down on this little human scene
Yeah.
and they look at the short lived passion
Hmm.
crossing mortal hearts.
Hmm.
And I think we've all felt that
Hmm.
short lived passion. We have a great passion for painting,
Hmm.
music, and then it becomes short lived and we pick up something else.
Yeah.
Even short lived passion of love is there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why we have so much divorce
Yeah.
in the world because the passion is short lived. And passion here is not so negative as we normally would understand it,
Hmm.
but it is, it is quite. She is quite clear that
Hmm.
we're not like the gods because the
Hmm.
gods don't know grief and they're impassive. They look on this suffering world with calmness and
Hmm.
they look down on this little human scene from way up above where they are and they see the short-lived passion of that crosses mortal hearts.
Yeah.
An
An
ancient
ancient tale. Ah.
Should I read first again?
Um,
And then you,
how was my previous reading?
excellent. I
Okay,
mean,
so
it's improving very well. So if you want me to continue and read a bit, then you read, or you can continue reading on your own.
yeah, I'll try continuing, and if I'm still losing, then we come back to you.
Okay, very good.
An ancient tale of woe can move us still. We keep the ache of breasts that breathe no more. We are shaken by the sight of human pain and share the miseries that others feel. Ours not the passionless lids that cannot age, too hard for us in heaven's indifference. Our own tragedies are not enough for us. All pathos and all sufferings we make ours. We have sorrow for a greatness passed away, and feel the touch of tears in mortal things.
Okay, so there were some pronunciation problems again, and I have to find them now. Woe, WOE is woe, woe,
Woe, woe. Yeah,
woe,
we
woe.
had we had gone through that before. I forgot. Sorry, I need to practice this.
And then we should go over it. It's pretty much he's telling us the same thing that the Queen is feeling.
Yeah,
An ancient tale of woe, woe is sorrow,
yeah.
can move us still.
Still,
Well, look at Shakespeare's plays.
yeah,
They are ancient tales of woe and they move us still.
yeah,
When Hamlet dies at the very end,
yeah.
and his close friend says something like, and may the better angels carry thee to thy rest.
Mm,
No, he's so broken up.
mm,
So we keep the ache of breasts that breathe no more.
mm,
This is the grieving that we unfortunately still have for those who leave us,
mm.
for those who pass away.
Yeah.
And we're still shaken by the sight of human pain. And we share the miseries that others feel. We don't have those passionate lids of the gods, those gods who cannot age.
Mm.
Even too hard for us is heaven's indifference, because she feels that heaven is indifferent to us right now.
Yeah, towards yeah, to the tragedies.
Because the tragedy of Sachivan, yes. Our
Yeah.
own tragedies are not enough for us.
Mm.
All pathos is a quality that arouses feelings of sympathy and sorrow.
Okay.
It's an important word, very
So
important word.
it's a quality that arouses sympathy.
Yes, feelings of sympathy or sorrow. It arouses those feelings.
Okay.
And then we have we have a sorrow for a greatness passed away. Now here's a good example. This greatness passed away when a great musician, a great artist passes away. We feel sorry for them. We don't even know them,
Mm.
but we have a sorrow for a greatness passed away.
Mm.
And we feel the touch of tears
Mm.
in mortal things.
Mortal
Now I have
things.
to go to page 810 of Savitri. I don't know if
Okay.
you I don't know if you have the letters on
No,
Savitri. You don't.
I don't have those pages.
This is a line that Sri Aurobindo took from Virgil, the poet Virgil. He took it
Okay.
directly. And here's what he
Okay.
says. He says, about the overhead poetry. You
Okay.
speak, for instance, in the overhead planes that need not be explicitly there in overhead poetic expression or in the
Hmm.
substance of any given line. It can be expressed indeed by overhead poetry, as no other can express it. But this poetry can deal with quite other things. I would certainly say that Shakespeare's lines, absent thee from felicity a while, and in this harsh world draw thy breath in pain. You can feel
Okay.
it. And then he speaks of Virgil. He says, if I had to select the line in European poetry which most suggests an almost direct descent from the overmind consciousness, there might come first Virgil's line about the touch of tears in mortal
Hmm.
things. And he took it because it was so great that he used it.
Hmm.
And feel the touch of tears in mortal things.
So, can you give me the name of the poet again? I would just make a note of it. I don't have those pages.
Virgil,
Virgil, okay.
Virgil, the Latin poet. And he even uses the Latin, um, and I can give you that in
So
just.
this is like a entire line is borrowed, and feel the touches of tears in mortal things.
He didn't say and feel, but he added and feel. Virgil's
Okay,
is the touch of tears in mortal things,
understood. Yeah.
and I'll give you the Latin. Okay. Sunt lacrimae rerum et mentem mortalia tangunt. That's Virgil.
Okay.
So we'll quit here for today. So you can go to.
Yes, let's do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, very well.
Thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
Narad.
Namaste.